driving time is thinking time, and thinking time is talking time, it seems. So, I feel like I have something to work out. I'm not sure what it is. I planned on sitting quietly, and then I realized that having this recording seems to spur creativity or entice thought or something. Well, go on. Think then. Listening to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's been a long time since I've read that book. But I wound up reading the second one, or listening to the second one. I was like, oh yeah, I don't quite recall the first, so let's go ahead with it. And listening to the second one gave me the strangest laugh. There's a joke in there about if you're sick of living here, then you're sick of living, and then the suicide rate tripled the next day. Usually it's kind of hard to catch me off guard, but that one caught me so severely off guard. I had this like hesitant chuckle that I didn't even know why I was chuckling, and as I was laughing, I was thinking about why what had just been said was funny. Involuntary laughter, I guess. Didn't look too great. Why don't you look too great? Kind of weird. Had a very good conversation with someone at one of the, or a couple of the teachers at one of the coding meetups. And as it happened, they're apparently he's part of a boot camp, a class of sorts, and they were very busy, and the students had a lot of homework, so he didn't really expect any students to show up. Sure enough, it was just him and the other instructor and myself. And we wound up talking about a variety of things, mainly about technology and how we learn things just in general, and what's a good and bad way of accomplishing that. And I brought up that Alan Kay video, and I was talking to him about it, and it kind of segued into just what's going on with the industry and this realization that I've had. And I was rather surprised to find that he was pretty much on the same page. He might not have, I don't think he was 100% there or where I am, but I think it was probably like 70% of the way. And then in talking to him, he was like, wait a minute, yeah, you're right, wait a minute. So it was and he's been in the industry for a very long time, so I think that's just, what it is. You're just, if you're in it for long enough, you can't unsee this stuff. That was how I brought it up when I started talking to him about Alan Kay and Lisp and all that, and the origins of object-oriented programming, and why it survives today as a pale comparison, a pale shadow of what it was designed to be. I told him that I gave him the warning that once you start to see this stuff, and once you start to understand this stuff, it's hard to go back. You can't unsee this stuff. You can't unsee. So when you sit there and you start doing something wasteful, or building into a framework, setting up nonsense, you call yourself out on it, and you just you can't let yourself do it. I mean, you can force yourself. I don't recommend it, but it's just not a good way to do things. So, him having been in the industry for a long time, it was the conversation was primarily about valuation. What is the value of the work? And that's a tricky question to answer, particularly if you're trying to make a lot of money. I don't know if I uploaded this one yet. There was one vlag where I was talking about that LNK video. Doing with images makes symbols. And my conclusion was there is no software industry if an 11-year-old can write near corporate level software, or near commercial level software. It's just you don't have all this infrastructure. I guess that's the right answer. I was gonna say I don't know if it's good that all of this happened, because this standardization and the corporatization led to all this information transmission stuff, and this connection between people across vast amounts of spaces at the speed of light, basically. And I don't know that it's a good thing. It's actually rather difficult for me to say that it's a good thing, because especially in this capitalist system, the larger the entity gets, the corporation, corpus, body, it's a fake entity, the larger that gets, the more the more it just wants more. The more it wants to get larger. It's a confusing thing. It seems to be that when anything gets that large, it seeks to sustain itself, and to grow larger. I don't know that there's a point at which people say, basta, enough. But there does seem to be a... What? Brilliant work. There does seem to be a limit to individuals. It's like and at this point I almost view it as an imposed limit. Tower of Babel style. A person and a community in a small area is only capable of getting this big before things start getting a bit wonky in the morality sector. If anything gets that large, it requires the human power of so many humans that it's not a subjugation, I guess. It's like in the early days of wars, when wars were fought by peasants owned by kings. Farming, large-scale farming made armies possible, because if you couldn't keep your armies fed, you didn't have any armies. People just left, and they raised their own food on their own plots of land. But it's like the mass production the mass production and perhaps to an extent the industrialization. I'm going to find myself in Uncle Ted's camp if I'm not careful. So I guess the concept is more like human-scaled agriculture or small-scale industrialization. All wars are banker wars. And that sticks with me because there's a lot of money that needs to be spent to fight a war. And in the same way that agriculture and required agriculture enabled, by producing that overproduction, I guess is the right way to put it. Perhaps that's the key. So overproduction of food allowed the creation of armies. Overproduction of money, or rather paper currency, fiat currency, creates inflation and loaning schemes and usury. That's interesting. So it's like overproduction of pretty much anything, I guess. So in this age, we are at an overproduction of information. Oh, definitely overproduction of information. I've been talking about an overproduction of information for a very long time. Now, what information consumes? Well, it's very obvious what information consumes. It consumes attention. And where you have a, too much. Where you have too much information, or where you have riches of information, you create a poverty of attention. So your attention becomes the limiting factor. Your attention must be focused. You have to choose what your attention gets to be focused on. There's also the matter of, telegraphs were pretty fast, but that wasn't by any means, not even close to the scale that we've accomplished today. It's overproduction. Definitely overproduction of software. Basically, I don't think the software industry as itself should exist. I think it should probably be close to 1/1,000,000th of what it is now. And I like software engineers, as I am one, and I don't necessarily want to put them out of work, but what is the object? What is it you're working toward? What has Twitter allowed us to do? What has Twitter enabled? What has Facebook enabled? What has information warfare enabled? I think there's a limit to the good that something can do, that a technology can do, and then when it goes beyond that limit, it can only do ill. So beyond that limit, we have this thin window of goodness that can occur, and then as we push the boundary further, beyond that window is just evil, 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 and we just keep pushing it more and more and faster and faster. And they want to get fiber optic internet to my doorstep. No, thank you. A few years ago, I would have thought myself mad to say something like that. Don't you want faster internet? No, it's fast enough. It's fast enough.